Hello everyone, welcome back to the shop and welcome to the final clutch installation / inspection for my 1987 Yamaha Big Bear. So in the two previous ones, it started off as a simple oil change. If I just want to recap real quick, that oil change turned out to be, well, I mean, kind of an alarming thing because I found some pretty significant debris in that small oil filter. Then it got into the inspection of everything, so I opened everything up. I took apart the primary and secondary clutches, and I started inspecting the clutch pack. So you got your fibers and then your steels. Measured everything and found that everything was actually in tolerance. Now, while I was here, I also decided to kind of further go into it and go even as far as measuring the height of the springs, measured the grooves on the drum. I measured absolutely everything, including the primary. In my case, everything is good. Now, I did have what I considered a slippage of the clutch, but then come to think of it, I don't think it was slipping at all because I was plowing with this thing all winter long and I didn't hear anything weird. The tires were spinning every time I needed them to. What was happening that was a little bit weird is the shifting was very hard. I mean, normally these bikes shift easily into first, second, whatever you want to go from second to first, whichever gear you want to go through because it's got that clutch pack in between. But this one, in this particular case, even through the adjustment on the side, it was very harsh. You would get into the gear and it would just kind of like jam in there. It wouldn't be smooth at all. So that's what prompted me to get into the clutch pack. But I'm starting to think that maybe it was just a lack of adjustment all these years. And of course, if you were watching my channel for any length of time, I did say I had a bit of a surprise for you. So here it is. I can't hold it up anymore. Let's go show you what I've got for you. I mean, it's been crazy around the shop here, as you guys know. This is my 1987 Big Bear, the one that we currently have up on the hoist that we're working on. It's all torn apart. We're going to get that back together in this video. But I'm also working on some Hyundai stuff. You know, actually, believe it or not, it comes from the same person that I got this from. Yeah, you're not seeing double. I now have two Big Bears. They're both 350s, of course. I believe this was I think it's an 89. I have to check the ownership now. But, I mean, it's a non-runner as it is right now. However, it is ironic that it's got a very, very similar type of history on it. If you guys watch my channel for any length of time, this was my grandfather's ATV, and this was also the seller's grandfather's or father's ATV. The person that I got in contact with was his son, and they actually had a really hard time selling this bike. And just like I would have the same difficulty selling my Big Bear, it was just as sentimental valued to them as my Big Bear is to me. So I was lucky to actually get a hold of this. It was from a friend that I, long time ago, practiced martial arts with. I am currently still in karate, still loving it as much as I do working with you guys here on YouTube. But I was approached by a friend that I actually graduated my first degree black belt with in my Wado Kai part of my karate journey, and he's been watching my videos, and he's the one who said, hey, you know what, Dad, I think we should give this to Sensei Rick because we know he's going to take care of this bike. And I'm very honored to be able to be the next owner of this one. I'm going to do the same procedure I did with basically my own, make it as good as it can be, and then my girls are going to really enjoy, they're going to pair up, be able to go for a ride. We have the ownership for it. Actually, let's just see what else we have with this thing. So as I said earlier, it is a non-runner. Not quite sure why, but I do know for a fact that it's got a Chinesium carburetor currently on it. They suspect possibly that that's the case because it wasn't tuned, and apparently there was different sized jets in the box, all this other stuff. But I have the original carburetor. Well, that's a big word for me today. Right in the box here, so we're going to try and clean that up as good as we can, maybe put a rebuild kit or whatever it needs. Got my ownership right here, and I should open that up to find out what exactly year that is. but I think it's an 89. Yeah, it is an 89. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing that the owner did mention is that yes, the 2 front tires get low, but he has another set if I wanted to, hit him up on that. But he thinks it's from the rim, and we're going to definitely spray them, find out exactly where they are leaking. But the old gentleman that had it before manufactured a lot of stuff on his own. And actually, when I first walked up, I thought this was all purchased. And believe it or not, I was told these rods here for the fender protectors, as they call them, that's actually from a barbecue. Pretty cool, right? So for those of you who enjoy my Yamaha Big Bear content, I'm going to probably have a lot of that content for you guys over the next little bit. I'm going to try and space it out because this has been 3 or 4 possibly in a row. But anyways, enough talk. This is a long form video. Yes, I get it, but let's get to the point. Let's put this whole clutch pack back together, put the cover on the side, adjust it, and see if it actually did what I was hoping it would do and shift properly. So I have cleaned and inspected every single one of these. I basically took a little bit of rubbing alcohol or isopropyl alcohol. I don't know what I can't seem to be talking. I have cleaned and measured every single one of these, and I ended up cleaning them up with some isopropyl alcohol or rubbing alcohol, whatever you have. I try to avoid using brake clean because it can leave a residue, but I wiped them clean on both sides, and then I even took a little bit of emery cloth to these just to make sure that there was no friction material left. And I just very, very light. I mean, you can barely see the scratches here, guys. These are still within lots of spec. There's still lots of life in them. I just wanted to make sure that if anybody had run improper oils with Teflon in it, that it would just be removed by all of those, isopropyl and that particular scrub. So here is the information you're going to probably need. So if you wanted to pause the video to see all this, you're more than welcome to do it. But essentially, there is a stack up for this particular clutch basket. So it's really important you follow that. And there's some, what they call, what is it now? Clutch. Well, you got your clutch springs, but there's also these spacers or these softener springs. I forget what they're called. Item 9. What are they called? Cushion springs. Yeah, so you want to make sure that they are in the right location. And of course, to use new lock washers. You can actually use them twice. I'll show you why in the part where I torque it all up. Mine had already been used once. Somebody was in here before, possibly why the clutch pack is still in good condition. But anyways, if you already have both of these sides bent, get some new ones. They're not super expensive, and these things spin quick. You don't want nothing getting loose. So yeah, let's get into the stack up and bolt it back in. Well, now that you have that stack up all in place, you want to make sure that you've got that washer in between, and you also have this sleeve in place. So we're going to reinstall the clutch back onto the drive shaft. Might have to work a little bit at trying to line everything up because you got your sleeve as well as that washer to kind of get going here. Just like that. Now, that's how that works. So I'm going to put that little divot up on top so that I can install a new washer, a new lock washer. In case you were wondering, this one's part number 90215-16258. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So they have 2 locks, and if you're smart about it, you only really need one. these are hardened steel, so they only bend once, and at least this, you get to use it twice. So then we're going to put that in place, and for that reason I'm not going to worry too much about Loctite, because I'm pretty certain that that lock washer is going to do everything it needs to do. This one is 58 foot-pounds. I'm not sure how I'm going to tighten that just yet, but we're going to get the nut on there for sure. Alright, so this is a very fine thread, and I got the nut on there, and I'm going to, just for now, it's a number 27 mil. I'm just going to give it a little, if I can just get it on here, a little rat-a-tat-tat here, just to make sure that it's tight. Oh, and that's going to be awesome. I'm not sure how I'm going to tighten that. Because everything wants to rotate. So, I know of course they sell a holder for that, but I don't have one of those fancy holders, and I'm willing to bet that that is just about 58 foot-pounds. Just to be sure. I'm very happy with that. Probably worth getting the holder. I'm not recommending this, but this is what I'm doing. So I'm also going to go get a pair of pliers, bend this over. Alright, so I'm using a large pair of parallel pliers for this, going from one side of the nut to the other, and just grabbing the tab and gently bending it over until it contacts the nut. Make a little adjustment there. That way there. She is secure, so that's nice and tight. Now we can go ahead and put in the springs and the support, as well as the thrust bearing for when we hit the clutch. Sorry, I call it a thrust bearing, but it's more of a release bearing, I guess. So we're going to put these in here, and I did put a little bit of blue Loctite on these pieces of hardware just to make sure that they don't go anywhere. And they are not tight. They are only secured to 5.8 foot-pounds, which is about 96 inch-pounds. So I'm pretty sure I'll be able to actually torque those properly if I can get these started. A little bit on each one. Alright, so I've got the release bearing back in place, and just to show you just about how this whole system works, come up and I've devised a plan as to how to shift this, or pretend that we're shifting it. So on the opposite side, if you guys remember in the last video, there's a linkage mechanism that when you put your foot up or down into the next gear, the mechanism pushes from the inside of the cap onto the release bearing. So I'm going to try and duplicate that by using my pry bar and a little piece of wood here, and hopefully you guys can see this, but you're going to see the springs inside push, and you might see the clutch pack in the back get loose. So let's see if I can do this without slipping and hurting my fingers here. Yeah, I can. And that's basically all it takes to release the clutch pack. Well, I say all it takes. I'm probably putting about 60 pounds of force on that pry bar at the end. So yeah, these springs, I have to double check because they look like they're bound, like almost completely closed up, and they probably are, because they just don't want this clutch pack to slip. And yeah, so anyways, that's how that kind of works. What I'm going to do now is, as you see here, lined up, there's one little divot here. We need to make sure that that's just about there, so that the primary drum can slip over top of this, and then we can torque that up. So before you go ahead and slide the drum on, there's a few things you want to make sure of. So right back here, this is your sprag clutch, or also known as your one-way clutch, and I can only spin it in one direction, as you can tell. You want to make sure that you've got your washer over top of here. You can put that after if you want, but there's also a thrust washer right back here in front of the circlip, and you want to make sure it's in place. So I've gone ahead, I'm going to hold this in case it falls. But I've gone ahead and on the bushings inside, put a little bit of assembly lube just to make sure that everything is ready to go for the first startup, because it's been sitting here dry for just about a month now. By the time I got all these extra parts and figured out where my book was and worked on other projects. So anyways, lots been going on. Now we got that right there. And as you saw, now that's all in place. Everything is working. Now it's going to be a little bit tough to put the primary clutch in place, as what I call it, as a primary. Again, I cleaned all this up with isopropyl alcohol because I just felt the need to do that. And we're just going to put it onto the splines like that. We're going to put a new lock washer, different part number in case you want to know it, 90215-22259. I'm going to put that in place there. And this one is 56 foot-pounds, almost like that one. On the backside, it's just a few foot-pounds less. But more than likely, like I did my other one, I'm probably going to do my little rat-a-tat-tat with my impact. That almost rhymes. Rat-a-tat-tat with your impact. I'm not going to quit my day job, just so you know, guys. Where's my impact? Now this one, I can almost hold it. But 58 foot, or 56, sorry, is not that much torque. So I'm essentially just lining it up so one of these is nice and flush with the tab. And again, guys, they do sell holders for this. You should look it up if you're going to be doing it and do it properly. Don't always do what I do. In this case, again, like I did the other one, this is how I'm doing mine. But I wouldn't want to have somebody come and find out that they lose their clutch or something because they did it the way I did it. Because this is not right. It's just, I'm putting a lot of faith in that piece of metal. Now, what we can do is clean up all the mating surfaces here. Give this a nice clean inside for one last time, because like I said earlier, it's been sitting for a while and everything had a chance to drip, which is probably a good thing because look at that. We're going to give it a good wash and, you know, we'll be ready to go with the new gasket. Put the cover on. Make sure that we have the proper adjustment on this release bearing. That's what I'm going to call it, the release bearing adjustment. All right. Well, it's been a few days. Where did I leave off? Oh yeah. So now we're just about ready to put the gasket on it, put the cover back in place. But before I go ahead and clean up the gasket, there is, I think I said it in the last take, but there's a pile of stuff in here. So let's go ahead and clean it up. And I'm just going to be using, I'll take off most of it with a rag, all the heavier stuff, and I'll probably go ahead and clean it something like either a parts washer or something like that. Just let it drain out, and then we can go ahead and just kind of clean up the mating surfaces where the gasket goes, and then put that in place. Next up is going to be the gasket. Only goes in one way, so obviously the two dowel pins are good. Sorry, I don't know what I did there. I almost choked on something. But yeah, the dowel pins are a good indicator of where it should be lining up. So what I decided to do, instead of using RTV, I just remembered I had a little bit of spray gasket left over from previous jobs. So before this sticks, or sorry, it dries and it's still tacky, I'm going to put that right where it needs to go, and hopefully it'll help us out here. Look at that. Look at that. I might have to hold it for a few more seconds. But that's much more gooder. Looks like it's going to stay in place right where it needs to be, because I don't want to have to open this up again due to a leak. And up next is we have our whole shift. I'm going to call it a contraption, because it's like there's a lot going on here. So you have this little part that goes in last. You have your 3 ball bearings, your shifter gear, and of course you got a washer in the end and a separate shaft. So if you guys notice, I'm not sure if you can see it on camera, but there's a little indicator pin, like a locating dot, and there's also one on the other one. So you want to make sure that those two align. We're going to put those in like that and make sure that they align just like that. Then we can go ahead and put in the ball bearings. Oh, I think I need to push this one in. Okay, and then finally we have the last part of the puzzle here, and that one aligns up with this particular little dowel so it doesn't rotate, so that when you make the shift on the other side, everything is going to kind of push, and then this is going to push on the inside cover, which in turn pushes on the release bearing here. So now our next step is to put in the cover. Now before I forget, I have to put this little spring in here too. I was just double checking my parts, and this is going to basically kind of hold everything in place when you put the cover on. Now we can put the cover on, and I've gone ahead and did the same as the engine side, where I kind of cleaned everything up as nice as I can, and we're going to slide that in. What I am going to do first, actually it doesn't matter, yeah, it does matter. What I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this off. I'm going to back this out so that my adjustment is out of the way, and then I'm going to dial it in after the cover's all in. So I'm going to do that first. Alright, so I did get that done. Now it's all the way in. And just for those of you who don't understand, because I had to take it out on a bench and I just examined it, when you turn it counterclockwise, where it says decrease, you are actually pushing out this lever right here. You're making this longer, which means you're decreasing the distance between the push, let's call it a push rod, against the release bearing. So you're decreasing it by turning it counterclockwise, and you're increasing it by turning it clockwise. I mean, once you understand the logic, it makes sense. You might have to try and align a few little things here. Wow. Okay, so it's not so bad. No. Not too bad. I remember this was a little tight to remove. I still got a pretty significant gap there, so I want to make sure everything's in line. I'm going to definitely take my time here. I'm going to make sure everything falls into place, because I don't want to drive in some screws and find out that there's something that's not lined up in the cap. So take your time with this. So now I do remember that I put a mark on one of these bolts because it had a little gasket. So before I forget, let's find that one. And there it is. So we're going to make sure that that one goes back in the same spot. And then after that, it's pretty well, I mean, the lengthier ones are going to go over here, and the shorter ones I think are all just about the same length. But I remember that one was different. So let's just zip those in. And now that I have all of the perimeter bolts in place, I'm going to torque them to 84 inch-pounds, or 7.2 foot-pounds, which is really not all that much. There you go. And I'm going to be using an alternating pattern. I'm going to try and do like a crisscross over here so that everything kind of seals evenly. And I'm going to go around twice. Now that that's all torqued and I went over everything twice, we can deal with the smaller stuff, like the non-existent odometer cable here, but I'm going to put it in because if I don't, I'm just worried that we might have an oil leak. So a little bit of grease on the seal just to make everything slide in, and then we have the bolt, and this goes in through here behind there, and now remember this screw holding the cable in place, so we're going to put that as well as the bolt back here. And I cannot forget these here, which I should do actually, since while I'm talking about it, same thing, I couldn't find I should have bought some. I thought I had some here. These are the original crush washers. Hopefully they seal properly. I'm going to keep an eye on them. Still in good shape, but alright, let's get that. And then those three, and then I think we can go ahead, put the cap on and some oil. Check for leaks. Now we're going to talk about, oh, I also did the beauty cover. We're going to talk about how we're going to adjust the tension on that clutch. So, like I said earlier, I want to decrease the distance between the lever and that bearing. So I'm going to turn this counterclockwise until I feel some resistance. And these are very fine threads on the inside. It might, because I just turned it all the way, it's going to be a little bit. Still decreasing here. I had to second guess myself, so I stopped, but see, there it is. I'm like, I wonder, am I doing this right? So I went and read the book. No, I am doing this correctly. So now I can feel some resistance there. They say you should go 1/8 of a turn. Just after the resistance, just I'm gonna make sure that there's no oil or anything in between there. So right about there it is, the end. And they say just to go just a tiny bit more. And then you lock this nut in place while holding the adjustment screw so it doesn't turn. And that is your adjustment. So now when I shift on the other side, I'm going to move my light out of the way, but when I shift on the other side, can I reach it? Yeah, now I feel resistance, whereas before it was nothing, and then click. I think this is going to work, guys. So now let's put some oil in the engine. Because I can't help it, I'm thinking outside the box here. Wouldn't this be a perfect opportunity to put your logo on my bottle here or something, or your product that I'd be putting in the bike? You know, I'm open to suggestions, guys. If you guys have a product you want me to support. I don't have any sponsors at the moment, and it would really help if I did, because some of these repairs and a lot of the time I spend doing these videos could be, could be a lot easier, because it's all out of pocket and some of these repairs are expensive. But anyways, we're going to put 3.5 liters in here, is what according to the book. But I'm going to start by putting 2 and then checking, and then I'm going to start slowly, and I'm going to double check for any leaks, making sure that my drain plug and all that stuff. And then we'll go with the start procedure, but there's a few things I want to do before that. Okay, so I've added 2 liters of oil, and it's already up to the top. But in the book, if I come over here, it actually shows you where it says right there, total amount is 3.4 liters. But now I'm starting to think, because this is under the assembly part, it must be if you completely disassemble the engine, including your oil cooler and your lines and all the stuff. So maybe even the middle drive gear. So 2 liters is where I'm at now. But we're going to start it, and then we're going to bleed the entire engine because it's been sitting for about a month. This has been taking way longer than I wanted it to, but we're going to start it, and we're going to take, I'm not sure if you guys can see it, but right there's a little bleed screw. Make sure there's a little bit of oil that comes out of there so we know the head is getting oil. All the valve train up there is good. Takes any air out of the whole system. Then after that's done, we're going to double check the oil, ensure that nothing is, if it filled anything, let's see, like the oil filter took a little bit and the rest, and we'll just adjust it as we need. So it's finally time to take it off the lift, and I'll be fixing this after. All right, we're almost there. Now I can remove my do not start, no oil stickers as reminders over the key, because you never know. Sometimes Gabby comes in here and hopes that the bike is ready, and what if it looked assembled? I wouldn't want anybody to turn it over and find out that there's no oil in it. That'd be bad. So we're gonna put the key on. I'm gonna make sure it's in neutral, and it just went in neutral like that. That's amazing. Now I'm gonna turn the ignition off because I'm hoping that I can turn it over. I can't remember if these things do that, but I'm gonna turn it over for a little bit without it's starting to try and prime some of the oil, and it doesn't do that. But I can do that manually if I use the recoil here. I'm just going to give it a couple of pulls. Oh yeah, okay. That's when I can flip that. I'll do 3 just to make sure. And you got to reset that auto decompressor every time. Otherwise you need a truck to pull it over. That should help with a little bit of oil flow. And gas on, full choke, ignition on. See what it does. Just like the old girl does. So while it's running and at low idle, I'm going to crack that loose here, and hopefully you guys can see what's going on. This is an 8 mil. I can get it going the right way here. Trying to do this quick as well. And right away I got oil coming out. So that's really good. So I'll get the camera closer so you can see. But right away I ended up getting a bit of oil come out, and that's exactly what you want. Okay, so now we're going to shut it down. Wait a second here, and then we're going to go get a rag and double check the oil level. Now while we're waiting for the oil to settle back down to get an accurate reading, it's a good idea and a good time to go around the perimeter of everything we worked on, including over here. This would have had an oil leak by now. And looking at all the bolts, so far so good. Looks like we got a good seal. We should hopefully be able to get an oil level reading now. Now it's going to be a little low because we just started it. And there's not much on there. So we're going to add a little bit at a time and make sure that we're at the correct level. And then we should be able to go give it a shot. I ended up adding an entire liter. So I guess the book's not that far off anyways. Let's fire it up again. And I want to see if I can neutral it in between gears, because that's an indication that the whole linkage mechanism and the clutch pack is doing its job. So, see first gear? Wow, that just eased itself into it. I used to have to really jam it into every gear. Like this is nice. Now, is it going to slip? That's the big question. Let's back up a little bit here. Neutral. Let's put some full braking. First gear. Yeah, it's not slipping. So, what about neutraling it? So if I hold in between the gears, not quite into the next one, will it move? Okay, a little bit. I'm gonna have to go for a ride, is what I'm gonna have to do. Ah, there it is. See? And I'm in between gears. Watch, I'm just gonna drop it. Oh wait, I wasn't in gear. Ah, see? Now I'm in gear. I'm all the way up. Okay, so it works. It works. So that's what you do. You hold it all the way up into the next gear, and then you're in the neutral state. Okay. Well, maybe we should go for a quick ride. So we're not going to go very far because, as you see in a second, it's raining and it's getting dark out. So we're just going to go around the yard just to see if I can shift a few times. So let's throw it into low range so I can go through a couple of gears here. I'm going to change hands. There we go. Alright, so neutral first. Oh wow, like butter. Over the curb, onto the grass. Yeah, nice, nice. That's really good. I'm really happy with that. Now let's reverse. Switch hands again. Now let's try that one more time. See what the shifts are like, and I might have to readjust, of course. And I'm running out of yard, but yeah, that's 3 gears, so that's pretty good. Downshifts are amazing. So yeah, that's gonna work. And right back to home base. All right, guys. Let's take a look here. Do we have any leaks? And I am happy to report there's no leaks. No leaks. So the last thing I need to do is just deal with that one broken bolt. I'm going to probably just weld that in place so it doesn't shake again. Or I could just use a mechanical clamp around the muffler and the shroud. But that is going to do it for this little series. I think this is the 4th video I did on that. From the time I started the oil change to where we are now, that was kind of a big oil change. But I'm happy I did it, because now we know how it works inside. I know that the clutch pack, the primary pack, is in good condition. I still got many years of life left in this thing. And maybe in a few videos, I want to deal with my front brakes here. They work, but they're a little bit spongy. I don't know if the fluid's ever been drained, but then I also have Big Bear number 2 or 2.0, or I'm not sure what I'm going to call that, but I also got that one to contend with, because I want that one running. I want both of them running, for that matter. So there's going to be a lot of Big Bear content in the next little bit. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm going to be probably breaking it up with a couple of other things in the meantime, in between, to break things up. But if you did like it, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, subscribe, make a comment down below. I read all of them, by the way. So anyways, it was awesome to see you guys here. I hope to see you guys in the next video. And until then, well, in my case, it's summertime, so I'm going to go do some riding. See you next time. Maybe after the rain, though.